All right, so we are now live, in theory.
We are live. Hello, live people.
However,
There's no one there.
no, there's six waiting. People
Oh,
can hear us, but we're not on video yet.
yeah.
All right, so I'm muting
That's where the cool
myself
kids
over
are.
there. I'm muting. I'm sending the tweet out. I'm doing all the things, Patrick. And we will be on the air in a moment. Actually, technically, we are on the air, just no one can see
Yeah.
us. I don't know. I guess in events. Yeah, events, right? That's the place. Live now. And we'll do it there. All right. Welcome to DevMode.fm, a podcast dedicated to the tools, techniques, and technologies used in modern web development. I'm Andrew Welch from NY Studio 107.
And I'm Patrick Harrington from Mildly Geeky in Boston.
And this is another DevMode.fm stand-up where Patrick and I are just going to kind of get together and talk about some stuff, right?
Yeah. Just catch up and wildly popular on Twitter now. I'm excited. People are reacting. People are here. We have almost a dozen people here on YouTube. If you're not, if you're listening now, sometime in the future, and you're like, man, I'd love to hear this stuff live, tune in. We do these on Friday afternoons.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Patrick. I appreciate your marketing hyperbole, but I don't know about the whole wildly popular thing. Like, I don't think we're quite wildly popular, you know?
We had fan praise, people coming in saying that they prefer these to the normal dev mode episodes. There was one person, and that's,
One person saying
the
that
words
is
of
not
Donald
wildly.
Trump. People are saying, many people are saying.
No, that's not wildly popular. That's mildly popular.
There we go.
Right? But anyway,
Yeah.
I think we got a couple things that we got to recap, right? So we're starting to get a little more organized. We know that we've got some stuff that we want to fill people in and recap that we didn't. People need closure, I think, is what it is. You know,
We do. The entire country needs closure, really, on your bet. This is going back to our first stand-up. Andrew, you made a bet with a person who I would say is detached from reality and believed that that Joe Biden was, this was maybe January 10th or something, well after electoral counts have been voted and whatnot. But this person believed that actually, no, Joe Biden's not going to be president. The military will stage a coup. Don't worry. Person is detached. And you made a bet. I believe this person was giving 40-1 odds or something. I don't know how the world of betting works, but essentially, if America fell apart, you'd also be financially in trouble. But given that we're here, February 12th, we did have a peaceful transfer of power. That's a good thing. Did you also get to collect on your bet from this person?
yeah. And so it ended up being that if I won, I would win $2,000, and if he won, he would win something
80?
ridiculous like 80 grand or something
80
like that.
grand.
But
Yeah, so we'd have civil war and you'd be out 80 grand. So,
it was also just never happening. But I have good news, Patrick. I have good news.
My goodness.
I have good news.
Here, let's get some good Foley work there. Let's hear that on the mic. That's
So I collected.
$2,000.
Yeah.
20 Benjamins.
Yeah, I collected on the bet. He was real good about it. He brought it. He even delivered it, which is fantastic. So
yeah, but he still has his doubts. You've talked to this person still, and he believes that something was afoot. And
listen, I don't know how much is him and how much is the people that he's talking to. Like, I have no idea. Like, he'll send me stuff and he'll be like, I didn't really look into this, but these are what these people are telling me.
The MyPillow guys making some very interesting arguments.
It basically is like the MyPillow guy stuff is kind of what he's relating to me, and I'm just like this. Sorry, man, this doesn't make any sense. But if there's anything you want to wager on, like, let me know.
Yeah.
Far be it from me to not deprive him, not even him. Oh, so that's the other thing. He apparently, I don't think he has as much faith in this as maybe initially we thought he did. because apparently people were betting. He was like taking bets at a different ratio from other people, and then laying them. He was doing like 10-1 over there, and then laying them with me at 40-1, just so he was kind of covered. So I don't know how much he actually really believed it, and I don't know. I don't know.
Poker and game theory wins out in the end, even over conspiracy theories, I guess.
One would hope that would be the case, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to catch people up on. So yeah, I got the money. Everything's all good. No big deal. The other thing is, we talked about multi-architecture Docker images because you were giving me no end of grief. You were like, my provider of choice sucks because I don't have these native images or whatever. And I told you I wasn't going to do it. And then a couple of minutes later,
afternoon. Yeah.
Well, I told you I would do it. Well, see, that's the negotiating tactic, right? Whenever someone comes to you, Patrick, you immediately say, no, I can't do it. And then that's where you're negotiating from. So you can only go up from there,
Yeah.
But yeah, later on that afternoon, after you mentioned to me that it wasn't anything you could PR, it was just a build step, I found the documentation on BuildX, which is this experimental thing that it will build a multi-architecture Docker image. And I'm like, okay, let me try it. So I just kind of tried it, and it worked.
Now, did you have to create a personal access token and all that? I've been playing around with this as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Did you have to do anything like that to be able to push, or was it already plug and play?
Well, I already have an account on Docker Hub, so I don't know, maybe it's just not an issue because I created that, but no, I didn't make a personal access token at all. One thing that I did have to do in order to do it was I had to create a builder. I don't really understand that step or why I had to do that, because all you do is you create a builder and then you name it and then you use it and then everything just works. And I'm just like, well, why? I don't.
It feels one of those turtles all the way down. I don't know if you've taken a look. So I've had to do the same. I have an image that I host, and we'll talk about that in a minute and why that's been less than fun. It's one of those turtles all the way down things, because once you make a builder, now in your list of Docker images, you have that builder in your list of Docker containers. Okay. And I feel like you actually are spinning up a Docker container that now runs this experimental builder. I don't know why it's not just there. Maybe they just don't want to turn it on and fill people's list of containers with this new experimental builder. I'm also wondering, maybe because on Docker desktop, I'm not signed in. Maybe that's why I had to go and get a personal access token and do a couple other things.
Yeah.
That now that we say it, that makes sense. And so hey, thank you for doing that. I think the next day or the day after, I got on and cleared out my old images and pulled the new shiny ARM64 image. How long did it take for you to build that image? Was it like a 10-15 minute process?
It took a while to build it. I
was surprised the way that happens. Yeah.
I was actually surprised at how long it took to build it. And
I think it's almost emulating. Yeah, go ahead.
I was also thinking and they mocked me for having so many cores. Well, I was doing a whole bunch of simultaneous BuildX builds to build the container images. And it wasn't really pegging the CPU, but it did take longer than I expected to build it. But I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's doing 3 builds from scratch.
3 builds, and I'm sure it's emulating ARM in your setup. Like, it's just doing a whole bunch of stuff to do that on your machine without a native ARM processor. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't think it is necessarily emulating it, because I know things like GCC and LLVM, you can just say whatever the output target should be. And LLVM, for instance, it actually, you're going to love this. LLVM is a compiler that a lot of things are based on now. It used to be based on GCC, but a lot of stuff is being built with LLVM, and it has an interim. It's got its own interim kind of assembly language looking thing. Kind of like WebAssembly, Patrick. Ugh. It actually kind of is like WebAssembly in some ways. But I would imagine
Android all built on LLVM. Yeah. I think Android built other stuff on. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure Apple is using LLVM now too, and has been for a while. as opposed to GCC, which is what they used to be using. But I would imagine it's kind of something like that, where it just is using whatever it's using, and it sets the output target, and it says, go build this thing, and it builds the architecture. So it doesn't necessarily have to run the instruction set in order to build to that target, but it is doing a lot of work to build it. So yeah, the multi-architecture images. And the other thing, and this is just me not having tons of experience with it, what I originally wanted to do was I wanted to build all of these images locally. Okay. So I built the base image locally, and then I had another image I wanted to build based on that. And I assumed I could do that locally, but then it went out to dockerhub.io to try and pull down the base image. Whereas my experience with Docker prior to that was if you have the image built locally, it will just use it locally. So this BuildX thing must be outside of that normal flow somehow, but it just didn't do what I expected it would do.
Yeah, so I've played around as well. I have a Docker image that I use pretty much privately. It technically is public, but no one's really using it. And it's based off of yours. It's running PHP 7.2 for reasons. And for reasons. Because the server's on PHP 7.2. I don't know if you've heard of WHMCS. It's a what does it stand for? It stands for WHM Commerce Solution, which it's like web hosting, basically web hosting software, and it requires IonCube. Have you ever heard of IonCube?
I have.
Awful piece of technology that encrypts and it essentially encrypts all of your PHP code into non-decipherable, almost like it looks like binary. And so these containers need to bring IonCube along with them. And what's interesting is IonCube is pre-compiled essentially down to either ARM or down to x86. So yeah, when I tried to run BuildX, it just exploded in a fire. So now I need to go and try to look and see, have BuildX try to, go in and look and see what's the target platform or the target architecture, and then grab the correct binary, the correct PHP module based on what it's building to. So maybe working on that this afternoon because yeah, it's been a big performance boost. I've been talking with the M1 for a couple of weeks now. Having your stuff now running natively on ARM, you can feel the difference. It feels like, like I'm running on Valet. It's really nice.
Nice.
The only issue I've had so far, because a couple of people have asked, there is an issue with for you do a lot of work with Xdebug, and you can point it over to host.docker.internal so Xdebug can talk back to your IDE. Mm-hmm. There's some sort of problem with the mapping, so I have to manually map in my IP address. That's been the only real issue that I've had, but otherwise it's been fantastic.
So you are no longer going to complain about your service provider, is that correct?
Oh, there are always complaints. Being in the service industry, the complaints never stop. You made some big, pretty cool updates to your Docker images recently. Yep. Which caused a client I have that it's been running on the Node dev base one. Everything just broke all of a sudden. I pulled the latest and everything just went up in flames. Very interesting. I don't know what was going on. I ended up having to go and dig in and find out.
You must have used latest. So the image that you're using must have been based on latest?
It might have been. But even that, I tried to point it back to 11. A couple others, and I end up needing to kind of fork wherever yours was back in August of last year. Yeah, I know. I need to.
The Node 11 one hasn't changed at all.
Something went terribly wrong because
no, it has to be that they were. So basically, when you base a Docker image on another one, you specify kind of like Composer. You specify the vendor and the package name, but then there's also a tag name or a version that is kind of added to the end of it. And if you put it on latest, you're in for a ride, you're in for a rough ride. And
give me the bleeding edge.
I had a couple people contact me that they were using latest on the Node Dev one too. But you don't want to do that. Really what you want to do is you want to specify version 11 or version 12 or Alpine 12 or whatever, just so that, because latest really does mean latest. So when something major new comes out, like expect that that's going to change from underneath you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to, at some point we can compare, because I had to, like, it wasn't an emergency, but it killed our build for a couple of days where Webpack just blew up and it couldn't import modules. All sorts of weird stuff was going on. And now that I've ported back, I basically forked where yours was back in August of last year, and now it's happy again. So something's different. There's some breaking change. We'll play. I'll do some research and we'll talk about it next week.
I'm pretty damn sure that if you set it back to the Node 11 tag and then you do a complete rebuild, everything, because I haven't updated it at all. I literally haven't.
I know, and I tried that. I tried 11. We'll dig into it. We'll keep people on the edge of their seats for next week. All right, enough DevOps.
No. We didn't get into the other. So just a couple of the changes I made to the Docker setup. So.
Oh right, yeah.
The PHP, I made PHP 8 images because why not? Yep. Might as well start using PHP 8. And I enabled the JIT. So you know
what is the JIT?
So the JIT is the just in time. JIT stands for just in time.
Yep.
And all right, so let's backtrack a little bit. So PHP is an interpreted language in that it's written in this particular, text file, right? And it used to be that it would just parse that text file and execute it. And then they came up with this thing called opcache. And because internally what it did was it parsed through the PHP and it kind of separated it out into tokens, into like kind of a bytecode format. And what opcache does is it said, hey, why are we rebuilding this tokenized thing every time? Let's just save that. Let's hang on to that. And next time things execute, let's just use that and skip that step. And there's some provisions in the middle for making sure that the file didn't change from out underneath you and all that kind of stuff. And the JIT is taking
and let's jump in, because I know Nevin Line of Arcus Tech fame is in the chat. We skipped over APC. APC was another technology that did something along the way, but opcache is kind of where things have been now for maybe since 5.3, 5.4. It's been around for a while. And like you said, it kind of puts almost like bytecode. It really caches things pretty well. What is the JIT, just in time?
Yeah, and so now that you mention it, I do want to say hi to Nevin and to Kayer and to Andrea for showing up. So thanks for showing up, and everyone else who's there in chat, thanks for coming. So the JIT. So JIT is something that is used in a lot of places, and it is actually being used on your beloved M1.
Is it?
It is. So JIT is like a general purpose term for something. It just stands for just in time. Yep. So what's happening, you're running Rosetta 2, I think is what they're calling it, on your M1. And what happens is when you run an application that is compiled for Intel, what it does is it interjects itself and it recompiles it into ARM as you run it. And the interesting thing about JIT is they can be passive in that it'll recompile it once and then just be done with it. And the other thing that it can do is it can be adaptive in that it will optimize things like as you're running the app and make it better and better. I don't really know how Rosetta 2 works under the hood. I would imagine it probably does both.
From what I've heard, Rosetta 2 typically happens the first time you open the app. They say like running the app for the first time, you're going to get some delay, and then it's going to be fast, probably even faster than it was natively on Intel. But it typically it happens.
I don't believe that.
No, they've been benchmarks that says literally, apps run faster on this than they do in native.
Then why didn't your Docker images run faster?
Oh, I don't know. There's just so many turtles all the way down on that. It's all Intel running Intel, and at some point, it caught up with it.
All right. So getting back to, and we're giving poor Nevin a heart attack when he's hearing about APC, and so let's not bring up old technologies that are hurting him. But anyway, so there's a JIT in PHP now too, that instead of translating this thing into an opcode that it then goes through, it will actually turn it into native code, chunks of native code that it will then execute to do the thing. So that sounds really awesome, and it sounds incredibly amazing, right?
So craft is way faster now with JIT, right?
No.
Oh.
Or at least, I don't know. I should say I don't know.
Maybe? Maybe?
It's possible. So the early benchmarks that I've seen are kind of similar to WebAssembly again, Patrick, which you love.
Okay.
Where WebAssembly just will blow the doors off of JavaScript if it's a CPU intensive, computation thing like a Mandelbrot set or something like that.
Sure.
It'll just crush it. But if it's kind of dynamic JavaScripty stuff, it's not necessarily going to be faster. And
I'm sure it's jumping in and out of the request and on and off the disk. It's not just churning and like processing an image or video or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the CMS to an extent, where you've got this kind of big beast where lots of stuff is getting loaded, but it's executing through this path once, and then it bails out,
Yep.
So, and I don't know the life cycle. I know that you set an amount of memory for the JIT to be able to use. So I would imagine it's going to cache this stuff kind of like opcache does and keep it in RAM. I've done no tuning of it. I haven't tried to figure out, how much is it using, how much is it not. I just decided to just turn it on for the PHP 8 images because I'm just like, YOLO, like, why not? Let's just try it out. Let's see what happens. It feels snappy. I have no idea if it's just because of PHP 8 or it's because of the JIT. I haven't done any kind of timing tests.
Yep.
But I decided to turn it on.
Is dev mode running on PHP 8 yet?
In production, it's running on 7.4.
Okay.
Oh, no, if you're talking about... So, yeah, if you go to github.com/nystudio107 and find the dev mode repo, if you pull that down and do a Docker compose up, there's literally 4 steps to get that up and running. Yeah. If you do that, it's going to be running in PHP 8. Yeah, I did enable that. So if anyone wants to try it and see what the JIT is like, and if you've ever tried it before, you'll probably have to do Docker compose up --build just to make sure the containers get rebuilt. But yeah, it's running it. Everything seems really snappy. I mentioned it to Brad Bell, I think, and he kind of made fun of me. He's just like, well, I'm glad you've got some technology that doesn't offer any marginal improvement but adds complexity, or he said something like that.
I did launch. I launched my first PHP 8 craft site a week ago. I think it was pretty seamless. There was one SEOmatic thing we found, which had a weird error message that completely the error message contradicted what was in the code. Yeah, not your code, hilarious. Just PHP gave literally the opposite error message.
Yeah, the error message was an array walk recursive. Yep. And you need to pass in the first parameter by reference. Okay, so I guess we should talk about the difference of passing stuff in by reference versus by value. So if you have a function and you pass in the number 10 as a variable by reference, by value. What is it? You got a woodpecker in there, Patrick?
No, we have some people working on the house. Hey, sorry. Yeah.
We're all set.
Okay, thanks.
Will we collect the payment over
yeah.
Pay give the man his money.
Sorry. Can they invoice me or?
Yeah. That's
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Give the man his money, Patrick. They're gonna make noise until you pay them.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. We're having doing some stuff over in the bedroom, so good times.
You're having.
I don't know where my family is. I thought they would have intercepted.
Live people. What were we talking about?
It was not. Yeah, it was the SEOmatic and pass by reference.
Yeah.
So talk about what is a reference. All right. So you have a PHP function. Normally, you can say, that you have an add function. You could pass in A and B, and it returns whatever is A plus B. How does passing in a reference work?
Yeah, so let's say that we pass in a number to our function, and the variable name is X, right? And in our function, wow, that was almost really
bless
bad.
You.
In our function, wow, we we do something like X equals X times 2, right? So in the context of the function, X is now 20 or
2x.
two times whatever we pass.
I didn't know that was a quiz.
Yeah. And yes, Andrea, I'm wearing pants. I think she's asking me. Maybe she's asking me. I don't know. But yes, this is a PG podcast. We're good.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So basically, when that function returns, though, the variable that you passed in is going to be unchanged, right? In other words, if you pass it by value, you're taking the value of this variable, you're passing it into that function, and when that function returns, the value of that variable will be completely unchanged. Yep. When you pass something by reference, which in PHP you do by putting a little ampersand in front of it, what you're saying is don't pass in the actual value. You're passing in what is essentially a pointer for any C programmers out there. You're passing a pointer to the value into the function so that if you modify that variable inside of the function, it's going to change back in the previous function, right?
Yeah. So you're retaining a connection back to whatever the original variable was, whatever the original value was. And again, for the live people, Zencastr, great tool if you turn on the recording.
No. No.
I texted you just now. Yeah.
God damn it. Oh my God. Should I even bother now? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, throw it on.
All right, Patrick, I started the recording. All right.
Look,
so
we should do a pod sometime on how we record dev mode. That might be interesting, actually.
No, people are going to be like, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
In any event, so normally you're passing stuff to functions by value, right? Normally you want to pass in the value of the thing, and you don't want there to be any side effects or artifacts, as they call them, where you're changing stuff after the fact, right? In the function you're calling. In the case of array walk recursive, you want to pass in the first parameter, which is the array, by reference, so that that function can modify the array and do whatever it wants to. The second parameter is the keys, I believe, and you're not supposed to pass that in by reference, apparently. You used to be able to do either one, like it didn't make a difference. Well, now, in PHP 8, it throws an error, and it says that the second parameter was passed in by value. It should be by reference.
Right.
Which is wrong. It's the opposite of what's happening. So what I was doing was I was passing it in by reference when it really should have been value.
Be doing.
Yeah. So I did what the error message said I should be doing. And I knew, I'm like, okay, clearly the error message is wrong. I just need to reverse what the error message is telling me to do. And I did that and everything worked fine, but it was just kind of funny. Like, I'm sure there'll be a bug filed somewhere for PHP that says, it's kind of obscure, that says that error message is just plain wrong, you know?
Right.
But anyway, so that's in there. It's got PHP 8. It's got the JIT in there, and everything seems to be working good. I haven't done any tests, like turning the JIT off and doing timings and turning it back on again. One of the other things that's in there is I got Imagick up and running in there.
Is that how you pronounce it? Imagick?
How do you pronounce it?
Imagick.
I don't know.
Imagick?
It's one of these words that we never pronounce, like speak to another human, that I have no idea.
It's Imagick with a K on it. I don't know. What's the actual image? What's the actual library?
Imagick.
Imagick.
So that's why I pronounce it Imagick. You know?
All right.
But image. Okay, so there's some confusion over this too. So do you know what the difference between Imagick and Imagick is, Patrick? This is a little trivia test for you. And if anybody in chat, if you know the difference between Imagick and Imagick, let me know. Patrick, do not Google. I'm watching.
I'm not going to Google it. Look at my hands are right here. Okay. Imagick is the library for image manipulation, and Imagick, or Imagick, as sane people call it, is the PHP adapter that kind of hooks in and lets it's a PHP module that allows it to be utilized by PHP for image manipulation. How did I do?
God damn, I'm impressed, Patrick. I am impressed. I didn't think you were gonna know it, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Imagick is sort of a generic command line tool, that can do image manipulation. And lots of different things can use it, not just PHP. And Imagick is a PHP interface that then calls that library. Well, hey, look, man, if the thing is called Imagick, I'm going to call this other thing Imagick. Okay?
I just like you took the word magic is right there, and you just said, no, I'm sticking with image.
Well, you don't call it Imagick, right? Or, right?
Maybe we should ask the founder. Maybe we should ask the creator of Imagick. I'm sure he would love us to file a GitHub issue about Imagick.
Well, that's the fun thing. So you'd be like, Andrew, what's the big deal? You know, you put Imagick in your PHP 8 image. Like, who cares? Like, everyone does this. Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's no tagged. So there's a thing called PECL, which is a way to install PHP extensions, essentially. And there is no tagged version for PHP 8 of Imagick. I'm going to keep calling it that. I don't care what you say. You can shake your head. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to do it. Okay. So there's no version for it. So the only way you can do it is to compile it from source, which is horrible. The funny thing is there is actually a thread on there with people complaining about this, and it's actually fixed and it's working in the master branch, but nothing is tagged and nothing is released. And the author is just, I actually have some sympathy for the author.
Very much so.
The author is just like, well, hey, you didn't care about it before. You didn't sponsor it before. I don't like maintaining this project.
People are coming in 24 or 48 hours before the release of PHP 8 saying, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you gotten this up? And he's like, I'll get to it. But this is open source. And,
right.
There was someone, I believe, from Heroku who was giving him, I think there was something a little bit lost in translation. But basically saying, like, we're relying on this. Like, come on. Yeah. And he's like, well, if you want to sponsor me, like, if this is so important to your big multi-billion-dollar business, maybe you want to support open source a little more. But of course, the methods for supporting open source are difficult.
Well, and honestly, I think that he's right, because I think that the people in air quotes that should be paying for open source are these big companies that are benefiting from it. I don't think, it's all well and good if individuals want to sponsor things, but really it should be the companies that are reaping massive benefits from these things that should be sponsoring them. So, I have some sympathy for him about this, and he's just like, he's not holding it hostage.
No,
but he's just like, look, where were you? If this thing is so important, why don't you sponsor it? You're a multi-billion-dollar company. Like, give me some
people
money.
Are pressuring him to release it and tag it as PHP 8 ready. And then if there's a mountain of bugs that come out because he's been rushed on it, now it's on him, and he's probably up late at night with people saying my site is down. And
So, as annoying as it is to me that this thing isn't available, I have some sympathy for him. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it, man. Like, and this is not even, it's one thing when you're maintaining something and you use it every day and you really care about it and it makes a difference to you. But he's like, I don't even use this thing. Like, he's probably in a totally different space now, doing something else. And he needs to, because of the typed parameters that are in PHP 8, he needs to be careful about, how everything is constructed. And it's not a simple thing, and it's not getting his 100% attention. And people aren't paying him to do it. So why would he make it a priority, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, what people were saying to do is to just build and compile this thing from source, but it's kind of a pain and it's kind of gross. And I managed to find a way in one of the threads there that what you actually do is you check it out from Git and you fool the PHP extension system into thinking that it's already there. And you just tell it, hey, make a PHP extension out of this, and it just works. So I think it's like 2 lines of code, and it's in my PHP 8 Alpine image, so you can just see what's in there. But it's just something that someone else came up with it. I just repurposed it and used it, but it works good. And so now we got Imagick in there, and we've got PHP 8, and we've got Xdebug 3, and I scammed the config from you, which is now only 3 lines, which is awesome.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I confirmed that all works.
I sent it to you and I messaged you like, that's it. I'm like, Xdebug 3 is just such a cleaner, just a cleaner UI for enabling. It's nice.
That is one thing that I did do some timing tests though of the regular container versus the debug container without Xdebug in it at all, and there were performance differences in it. So
sure, but it's a whole world of difference from 2 to 3.
Yeah. But I guess my point is the dual container thing is still probably a nice way to keep going if you care about local PHP performance. You know. But yeah, all that's updated and it's in my. It's in the dev mode repo if anyone wants to pull it down and play with PHP 8 and the JIT, but it's also in my craft base starter. Like they're based off of the 8 images now. So that's all good to go. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
What else have we got going on? You have some notes here, TypeScript in Vue 2 and 3. Tell me about that. What's on your mind there?
Well, so one of the things that I've been working on, I'm working on that large update for Image Optimize, where a big part of it is I'm building out a nice GUI for visualizing the sources. I want to make it super easy to make image source sets and all that kind of stuff. So to do that, I'm using Vue. On some front-end sites that I've been working on, I've moved over to Vue 3, which is kind of nice. There's some nice improvements in it. It's all written in TypeScript now. It's TypeScript through and through, which is fantastic because I also have adopted TypeScript a while ago, and I've been gradually adding that to projects as I go. And I really kind of wanted to use Vue 3 on this, not necessarily for the composition API, because most of what I'm doing, the component-based approach is still kind of like the right way to do it. You know, they're visual components that kind of have a one-to-one correspondence with what's displayed on the front end. And the composition API really kind of solves the problem of how do you modularize components so that you can bring in just a little bit of functionality. You can almost think of them as, if you're used to Twig, think of them as partials that you include. You know?
Or like traits in PHP almost.
Yeah, or just, you know, a way to modularize stuff that you can then combine it together. So like, let's say you've got a view and then you've got some kind of a, I don't know, like a zoom behavior or something, right? The idea being you can put that zoom behavior in one thing and then you can just pull it in where you need it and don't use it where you don't need to use it, rather than writing a whole new component or a component that inherits from another one or something like that. For what I'm doing, the composition API is as nice as it is. Like, I don't really get a huge benefit from doing it. So I'm writing everything just using the regular object or component notation. But I still kind of wanted to use Vue 3 just because I'm using it in other places. And I like simplifying my life, man. I like just using one thing and that's where I use it.
Yeah, it gets you out of the technical debt doghouse. You know, if you're building in Vue 2 now, you're just putting off now an upcoming transition to Vue 3. I've used Vue 3 and I didn't see an immediate benefit, but it did feel good knowing that we were building something, you know, in the future state, not the past state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the reason you didn't see the benefit was things were not constructed
because their dev tools were broken at the time that we were building it.
Well, there was that too, but also things were not constructed in a way that actually leveraged the composition API.
Sure.
You know, things were not split off into their own little use functions and that kind of stuff. But in my case, they wouldn't be either, right? For this particular project, I mean, they could be, but there's no real benefit, you know. But I can't use Vue 3. Well, so Ransom Roberson is going to say that I'm wrong, but I can't use Vue 3 because this is inside of the Craft CP. So really, what I need to be doing is I need to be using whatever version of Vue that they are using inside there, because I got to coexist in their ecosystem. Now, Ransom
says, jQuery, where you could bring in your own and alias it out to something else and run your own side-by-side Vue 3 alongside their Vue 2?
I don't know. It might be possible to do that. You're right that it might be possible to do that because that's the real rub, right? So if you just import it normally, you'll get a global view hanging off the window, right? So what happens if Craft already has Vue instantiated somewhere? Like, what is it going to end up being? Is it going to overwrite it? Is there a way to import it such that it's in a separate variable? I mean, possibly.
It's just like jQuery, just run in no conflict mode. Easy, done.
I don't.
You're like, oh.
I don't think there is one. I don't think there is a no conflict mode. Anyway, I'm sure it is possible to do this, but the gain, because I'm not leveraging the composition API anyway, the gain is kind of small. So I'm just like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to use the built-in view asset that they're using for it. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy with it. I know that I could use the composition API despite it being Vue 2. Like, you can just pull that in and start using it. But again, there's no real advantage to using the composition API in what I'm doing specifically. I've had some fun doing the stuff that I'm working on. Like, I've had some... I've had a whole lot of nested components, and in terms of the messaging and bubbling props back and forth and getting all that sorted out so it works with a nice model has been, it's been a learning experience. I know that you're a fan of, what is it, Emmet or something like that?
MIT, M-I-T-T. We used it, I mean, out of necessity. We were looking for child-to-child component communication it was a project you and I worked on with Jonathan Melville. And essentially if you had Vuex running, I think you can do it all in Vuex. We weren't using Vuex on that project. MIT is this very simple little event bus so that you can use to just send events from one thing to another, just JavaScript application wide. And it allowed us to have, say my button says, I just got clicked. It can set it in, and then it fires that out to anyone who's listening for an I just got clicked event. And maybe a modal will then listen and say, oh, they clicked on the modal button. Let me pop up that modal, just to put into very simple terms of why we used it. If anyone's ever looking for a very simple way to get different parts of their page and different elements in their DOM or their Vue application talking to each other, MIT is M-I-T-T. We'll throw a link in the show notes. Is a nice little, very small, like hundreds of bytes large little library for doing so.
Yeah, and I ended up using vbind.sync.
Okay.
Which is essentially a shortcut for an emitting and a listening pattern for emitting the stuff up. And there's another thing where you can do VON, and you set that to $ listeners, I think it is. And then you can inherit all of the listeners from the parent. So it kind of allows you to make sure that you're listening to, it's the cases where you've got like a grandchild component that both the grandparent needs to know about the state change, but not necessarily the parent, and sorting all that stuff out. But the general idea with Vue is that props come down. In other words, kind of variables are passed in. And if you want to change them, what you do is you emit an event so that things that are interested in can listen to the event and they can change it. So I've got a parent sizes container component that has a lot of the data that's being manipulated. So it controls that data and it owns it. And you don't really want child components to be able to mutate or change that state, because then you run into issues like who's stomping on who's overwriting what variables, all that kind of stuff. So what you do is you have a child component, like maybe an input field that is then changing some value that is coming from the parent component. Instead of trying to change it directly, and it's called mutating a prop, what you do is emit an event that says, hey, I changed this thing. And then the parent listens for that, and it sees that it was changed, and then the parent is responsible for updating its own data. So really, all that it's trying to do is keep all the data located in the component that owns it. And that component that owns it is the only one that then updates it. And that's why there's this, it seems like a lot of work, but
it keeps everything contained, and it's not dependent on something else being there, and it's its own cohesive, ours depends on a whole bunch of things being present on the page for anything to kind of work properly.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, it's one of those things that when you're first getting into it, you're like, this is a lot of work to do stupid stuff. Like, I'm just changing a value. Why is it so hard? But it spares you the 5-hour debugging session where you're trying to figure out, why some value is getting stomped on, and it's some component, all the way down the line that is the one that is changing it and screwing it up. So that's why it exists. But anyway, it's been fun to do it. I haven't had as much time to invest on working on it as I would like. But I've really been enjoying doing the work on it while I've been doing it.
Nice.
I've had, shockingly, I don't know what's going on. Like, I had like a support avalanche recently where there's lots of people were having problems. Yeah. I don't know. You know, my least favorite thing, Pat, or not my least favorite, but one thing that is frustrating is when people are like, well, your plugin works on my local development, but when I put it on the staging site, it doesn't work. And, you know, I mean, obviously I'm helping these people and I'm not putting them down or anything, but look, if it works in one place and doesn't in another, probably it's an environmental difference, you know, probably it's some kind of setting in one place versus the other, you know, because it's the same project.
Right.
So, you know, and then the frustrating thing about that is then the only way I can really help them is by helping them to debug their environment, and I don't have access to their environment. So how can I really help? You know?
I wonder, there are a few things that Matic does automagically, where it looks and it smells out if something looks like a staging environment, you know, disables render, does a few things. Have you ever thought about maybe making those easier for people to find or less in the background? I think it takes some of the magic of Matic away, where you just install the plugin and stuff happens in the right environment, and you don't want it most of the time to be firing on your staging environment. But do you think that could be the source of some of those?
No. None of these are related to that. Not to say that there aren't potentially pain points there. None of these are related to that at all. And the idea with that is that we really want, so just a general thesis in software is you want to do the right thing by default, or what will be the right thing for most people by default, right? So for most people, you don't want it sending analytics data in the staging environment, you know? But there are other people that have complained to me and said, no, I really want it to do it in the staging environment. And you can still do that with SEOmatic, but you have to take an extra step to do that. And the reason is to protect people from a very real problem that is going to happen to tons of people if I didn't do it this way, where there'll be duplicate crap that's going to be sent to Google Analytics. And then how do you sort that out later? It's a catastrophic problem in terms of trying to sort that data out. So it's not that, and it's not even that plugin, actually, the one that I'm thinking of. But there have been a number of cases that this comes up that they're like, oh, you know, it works in local dev, but doesn't work on staging, or works on staging, but not production, or it works on, you know, whatever. And not to say, Patrick, that there haven't been many cases where there's a bug in my plugin that I've had to go in and fix. Like, this happens all the time. So I'm not absolving myself from that at all.
That you then blame on, you blame on people like my friend Arthur, who said, "Oh, it's totally on Arthur's side," and then we turned out you were JSON encoding base 64 in the
No, none of that is correct. I did not say that is not what I said. You're mischaracterizing what I said entirely. Okay, and that did end up being a wrong setting. It's what I thought it was. It was
right.
It was by default. It was set to sharp, and it was returning an error and whatever. Let's not get distracted. The thing I'm talking about is, if it works in one place but not the other, 99 times out of 100, it's going to be an environmental setting or a config setting or something like that. And try to narrow down what the difference is there and what could possibly be causing that. A lot of times it's just like a .env setting. It could be different versions of stuff running. It could be any number of things.
The op cache they just deployed, and op cache didn't get cleared, and they think they're running one piece of software. They're running,
But the too long didn't read is not just when you're dealing with someone's plugins, but anything. If it works in one place and not the other, it's probably not a bug in the thing itself. It probably is something environmental. Not 100%. Sometimes there'll be a bug, and I just ran into that today. That there was something that I was like, this probably is environmental, and it wasn't. It wasn't at all.
Really? Which plugin can you say?
Yeah, so it's not a big deal. So this was SEOmatic, and one of the things that I tell people, okay, so this was someone who was using it on a Google AMP page, and he had, I know your favorite, right? So
Yeah.
on Google, if you have a Google AMP page, you can't have any inline scripts, right? It's just you can't have inline JavaScript. That's the way it is, right? So SEOmatic will render scripts for you. So one of the things I show people and tell people to do is on a Google AMP page, you can just tell the scripts container, don't include yourself, right? And then no scripts will render and you'll be good to go. And I do exactly that on the dev mode site and also on the NY Studio site for the AMP pages, where it gets all the info, because AMP needs some JSON LD to work, and SEOmatic generates that automatically for you, right? So all I do is I just disable it, and I showed this person the line. I'm like, here, this is what I do. This totally works for me. It's got to be something like cache, something else is wrong, whatever. I ended up being wrong. So what it was is, there are certain scripts that Google has that they don't just put some script stuff in the head. They also put it in the body. And the reason they put it in the body is so they can have a no script tag that will then render something or do something if it can't load or whatever, right?
Got it.
So he was using G tag, which happens to render something in the body, and I'm using Google Analytics on my site, right? So the thing that includes all of the scripts checks whether the parent container was disabled. The thing that includes the body script does not check that. Does not check that at all. And after finding out the difference between what he was using and what I was using, super easy to fix. The fix is already checked in. We're already good to go. But yeah, I mean, that was something where I was sure it was something environmental, but it wasn't. So it works both ways, but 99 times out of 100, if it works in one place but not the other, look for the differences between the environment before you start trying to track down a bug in Craft CMS or in a plugin or whatever, because it's almost always going to be an environment thing. The
work we do, there's no machine learning. Like it's a dumb machine. It takes instructions and executes them. Something must be different. There's no... it's not like machine learning where you put it in, there's a black box, and who knows what's going to come out on the other end.
Yep.
There's some difference between the environments.
And that's why if you talk to any developer, their favorite kind of bug is a reproducible bug, because if you can reproduce it, you can fix it. It's those mysterious bugs that just, they happen in one environment and you don't really know what's going on. Those are the worst to try to track down. They're absolute worst.
Speaking of environments, have you taken a look at the new release of Nitro yet? I think that released maybe right after we recorded our last pod.
I don't have it installed.
Okay.
Because I don't use Homebrew, and I know that's the easiest way to install it. I know there are other ways to install it, and apparently they're a little bit of work. So I watched Ryan Ireland's video on it on CraftQuest so that I could at least, understand what it is and what it does and all that kind of stuff. But no, I haven't installed it. I haven't played with it. Part of the reason is, like I was saying, like I don't have any real great means to install it. And that's, that's my own fault. Like I'm being a stickler on not running anything installed via Homebrew. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, man, I already have a really nice Docker setup that I'm happy with. Like it already works. Yeah. So I don't have that pressing need to solve a problem that makes me want to then jump on board using it. How about you?
Yeah, I haven't. I'm interested now that they're using Docker under the hood rather than, what was it, that Ubuntu something or other?
Multipass.
Multipass, thank you. Yeah, I'm interested now. I wonder if it would make any difference for you just to have a common Reddit, craft endorsed development environment that people could, if you can reproduce it here, then you can send it and we know we're working on the exact same environment setup. I don't know if that'll make it easier or harder. If, people who are at that stage probably can figure things out on their own.
I don't think so. And here is one of my gripes with Nitro. Docker is wonderful because you can wrap a project in the dev apps for that project, right? So I could easily, like, if everyone was using Docker, I could say, give me your project. And I would spin up the exact same thing locally here and be able to debug it.
Yep.
You can't do that with Nitro. Like you have to go in and manually set it up. There's no like nitro.yaml that you can just do nitro up and it will read everything. Like in my ideal world, it would be something kind of like DDEV, where what it does is it actually builds a regular old Docker Compose file for you, you know?
Right.
So it uses standard Docker stuff, so you get that kind of encapsulation. So I'm not sure that would actually help me from a reproducing point of view.
Got it. All right.
I mean, for now, it's not that big of a deal. I can just spin up my own Docker container. All I need from them really are some of their config files in their database. You know.
Yeah.
Like if
That's
I get their project config stuff and I get their database, that's enough for me to spin something up. I don't need all their templates. I don't need all their CSS. Like, I don't really care. I don't really need any of that stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. That's fine. I just got a little notification on my watch. I have another bid on my eBay sale. Something we missed in recap. You may be saying, Patrick, it's been a while now. Why is that Mac Mini still up? You may also be saying, Patrick, I clicked on that link and it is now since changed since we first put up the last episode. Always check your specs when you list something on eBay, because you might think you have a 1 terabyte drive when you really have a 0.5 terabyte drive.
Patrick.
Yeah, it was about a day and a half.
False advertising, catfishing, bait and switching guy. What are you doing?
I was about a day and a half from the eBay sale closing. It was up to $1,100. There were people watching it. You know, everyone was primed for this one great Mac Mini to finally go on the market and be, you know. And I checked. I'm like 1 terabyte, and I was in the middle of reformatting and getting it ready to ship off the next day, and then realized it doesn't have a 1 terabyte. It has 512 gigabytes. Had to delist it, relist it.
Patrick.
The saga continues. I don't know if I'm going to hit with any sort of a ding from eBay for false advertising. As
Mother's Milk would say, Patrick.
Stop it.
Patrick.
I don't even want to. No, I don't listen to the episodes. You have to listen to them for all the editing you do, but I don't even want to know what happened with that last episode.
I haven't edited it. For what anyone's listening, what Patrick is talking about is Ben Croker came to me and said, hey, for episode 100, how about if we reverse the roles and we interview you and Patrick? And I said, sure, if you want to do that, that's fine. We can do that. And then after I agreed to it, somehow the title of it changed to Roast the Hosts. So it changed from being like an interview thing to apparently they were going to roast us, is what it changed to. So Patrick is talking about that episode, which is recorded but not edited, which is the story of my life currently because I'm kind of busy. Actually, I have to edit Monday's episode. I got to try and edit that today or tomorrow and get that up. It's going to be the one with Henri Helvetica.
Oh, that was a great one.
Yeah, that was good. That was a fun interview. I think people are going to like that.
Yeah.
But so you had a question for me about something?
Did I?
You put it in the notes, man.
About your AirPods?
Yeah.
Yeah, how are the AirPods Max treating you? I have AirPod Envy. I'm wearing some old Sennheisers right now. You have AirPods Pro in your ears as we speak, but you have the big honkin' AirPods Max, you know, in the building. Although if you take them out of its protective magnetic case, it may take over your microphone again. So I'm a little bit afraid for them to show them off on camera. Wondering, what you think about them, if they're worth it, if you're still happy with the purchase.
Yeah, so first of all, production value stuff. So you notice there's no microphone anywhere in this view, right? Kind of cool.
Yep.
I've got a shotgun mic right up over there. Hopefully the audio is still good. And then I got these suckers in my ear. But yeah, the AirPods Maxes, they're amazing. They've got probably the best noise reduction. I'll be honest with you, Patrick. I wear them when my kids are around.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because they have some of the best noise reduction there is. All right, so Andrea says to show them. All right, I'm gonna go get them, Patrick. You're gonna have to carry the load for a second.
All right, so here we go. I don't know what to tell you about these AirPods Max. I've been interested in them. Andrew lives way out upstate New York. He had to wait a good month for them. He has a large head, so I think his neck is able to support them. Oh, hey, you're back. Hey.
That's right. I'm not a bobblehead. Thank you, Patrick.
No, not that I am. But anyway, so what do these things look like? Okay. Yep. You got your handbag.
So this thing actually, this looks like a little bra to me.
It does.
I don't know if it's just me, but it looks like a little bra.
Yeah.
But then here's a little magnetic case thing. And then there they go. If it takes over the audio, let me know. Like, let me know if the voice changes or something.
No, everything sounds good.
Hold on. I got to check. I don't trust. Oh, Zencaster doesn't let you change it after it started. Yeah, so this is what they look like. And then these are the other side of it. And then, so I'm showing the AirPod Maxes. And then this is like a soft kind of like memory foam kind of thing that's around it. And then you can probably kind of, I don't know how I can do this. So you can see the little crown bezel thing over there kind of thing.
Yeah. Do they fit around your ears? I think we both have larger than probably that I'd like ears.
They fit like
kind of on top of your ears. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know.
Oh, something switched. Oh my God. No. Oh, it did. God damn it.
There goes our audio.
Oh my God. I knew this was going to happen, Patrick. How dare you?
Tempted fate. I have echo.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh my God. Oh, there they are. Okay.
It's probably time to call it.
All right. No.
I'm on echo still.
There we go. No, you should be good.
Are we good? Yeah, we're good now. Okay.
Yeah. Everything should be good. Oh my goodness. All right. So
anything else? We can talk about this next time. I want to talk about stonks and people investing in GameStop and AMC and how I think so much of it is tied to the user experience of the Robinhood app. But I actually need to run today, so maybe we can save that for next time.
Oh, what happened? Did it pause? Oh no, it's still going. Okay, never mind. It freaked me out. Like something, it paused.
I think I have echo again.
Oh my God. God. I knew I shouldn't have taken these things out. They're like beasts.
Oh my gosh.
They're like beasts, man. They take over everything. All right, there we go.
I'm hearing. Yeah, I think this audio is.
I don't know. Hold on. I'm putting them away. Okay.
Yes, Caroline, they are constantly in a force field of deep protection, and Andrew unleashed the Kraken.
There we go. Well, I felt pressure. It was like Mardi Gras style pressure. Andrew is like, show them. I'm like, oh, okay. I did.
Mardi Gras pressure. Whip it out of the bra.
It seems relevant, you know?
It does. Yeah.
All right. But that about wraps it up for another episode of the DevMode.fm podcast. I hope you enjoyed the stand-up. Would love for you to join us while we are broadcasting live. Check out the video. Ask us questions, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we tape these Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Follow us on Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe,
we're all over the place.
etc.
Just search for Dev Mode. You'll find us.
Cue the funky Dev Mode theme music.
Cool. Anyone still in the chat? Yeah, I'm seeing. Man, I think we got like a late rush of folks here. We have Mark is here. Caroline has been here for a while. Andrea, we'll talk about it next time. But my brother, who's not the person you'd expect, he somehow like low key had 2,000 shares in AMC before everything blew up, and I was urging him to sell back when it was like $20 a share, and he just kept on holding. And then now I've very quickly realized that I am not good at day trading, so we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to talk about next time. Thanks everybody for showing up, and Patrick, sell at the highs, buy at the lows, okay?
There we go. Thanks, guys.
Recording now. Ending.